Hello and welcome all back to Election Time News America. Today is Tuesday, September 23rd, 2025, and today we're going to be doing a bit of a more fun video. We're going to be looking at the last time that Democrats won the majority of counties in each and every state. Election Time News, you want to cover all things elections and politics, from summations to poll reviews and news. Subscribe below for more content like this about American, Canadian, and Australian elections. Also, make sure to follow the Substack, Threads, Instagram, and X all down below. Remember, there's never a dull moment in politics. So, on to the video. Real quick, I have to fix something real quick. But on to the video. First off, generally, the Democrats do not win a majority of counties, even in some states that they do win, such as for Illinois, for example. Kamala Harris won the popular vote by 10.9%, yet she only won 14 counties, while Donald Trump won 88. And this is just due to the population density across the entire country. Same thing can even be true at this cycle for California, where Kamala Harris won the popular vote by 20.2%, yet she won a slim minority of counties. And so this is generally true across the country. There are very few states in which there actually are a majority of counties that are won by Democrats, just because they are typically done relatively by land area instead of population. Like if we look over in Nevada, for example, more people live in Clark County than all of the others combined, and by quite a bit too. That central area right there in Las Vegas has the same population as the entire rest of the state. So obviously it's going to be a bill tilted towards the Republicans. Texas is another phenomenal example with over 250 counties. I believe it's 250, just barely over 250, maybe just a bit under. But in 2020, the popular vote was within 7 points, yet the county number was all the way at 22 to 200. That's 238. 232. 232 to 22. Yet the popular vote was within 7 points. So obviously there's a bit of a skew towards the Republicans with the county maps, but that doesn't mean that the Democrats haven't won a majority of counties in every single state, which they have at one point or another. Now, in some states, it's gone all the way back to the 1960s, and some even before that. But I'm actually going to get this in order here. But we're going to go in alphabetical order, or maybe I should do, I'm actually going to go in year order here. And so what we're going to be looking at is the last time that the Democratic Party won a majority of counties in each state. So starting off in order, we're going to start off with Connecticut, and that's going to be with Kamala Harris in 2024. She was able to win the state by 14.5 points, and she won 6 counties compared to 2 for Trump. It's the exact same as Biden did. We're going to be going a bit quicker than that for each and every state. The next one that is also in 2024 is Delaware, 2 of 3. Hawaii, all 4 went to Harris. And then Massachusetts, all of its counties went to Harris as well. Rhode Island. And then we also have Vermont. Those are the states that Kamala Harris won the majority of counties in 2024. Most of them are up in the Northeast. Next, we have the states the last time that a majority of counties went to Democrat was in 2020. Here's the one state that the rurals go for the Democrats and the cities tend to go for Republicans, and that is the state of Alaska. Joe Biden narrowly won the majority of counties here. You can see he won 15 to Trump's 14. Now, of course, these aren't officially counties. These are census areas, but they are the equivalents. Same thing for Louisiana. Officially, they're parishes, but they are county equivalents. Next state is California, that Donald Trump flipped 10 counties, including some of the largest counties by population in the entire country, narrowly into his column by 28,000 votes or so across these two, with a population of over 3 million combined. But in general, the Joe Biden did win all of these, including some all across the rest of the state here and the general outer San Francisco area as well. So he did win a majority of counties in California. New Hampshire is the next one that Joe Biden managed to win a majority in, and then is New Jersey, another one in 2020 that went to the Democrats. Now, in 2016, it was a relatively good year for Republicans, so the Democrats did not, that's not the most recent time, but we do have a few in 2012. Barack Obama did relatively well in the state of Maine. That's going to be one of them. 2012, as well as New Mexico. And then we also have New York. He did well. Barack Obama did well enough in northern New York that he won some of these counties out over here. All across the rest of the state, he was actually able to win a majority of counties, even though most of them went to Donald Trump 4 years later. Next up, we go back to the initial election of Barack Obama into the 2000s. We start off with Iowa in 2008. It used to be a relatively blue state, but the last time that a majority of counties went to the Democrats, Obama only won 38 against Romney, was 53 in his column in 2008. Now, before that, it used to be a relatively blue state. Clinton won the majority of counties, then Dukakis won the majority of counties against Bush and won the state by 11, even while Bush nationwide got 426 electoral votes and actually was the third highest margin for Dukakis in the entire country was Iowa. So Iowa is a bit of an interesting trait there. Michigan was also 2008. Barack Obama did very well across the entire northern chunk of the state, winning some of these that haven't gone even close to for Democrats since, with the exception of Leelanau County, which actually went more for Harris than it did for Obama in 2008. But other than that, now we do actually, and Grand Traverse actually went less in favor for Trump in 2024 than it did for McCain. So there's a bit of growth in this area over here for the Democrats. But other than that, and across the entire northern chunk and some of these areas over here in the rurals, Obama overperformed in ways the Democrats have just not been able to replicate since. And then we have Washington and Wisconsin. Wisconsin's another one where he was actually able to pull off a win in the rurals all across the western part. I mean, forget even just the Driftless area, which he managed to easily win in 2012, but he narrowly did not win the majority of counties. That includes some by just under a point, but in 2008, he swept the entire state and almost all the counties in it. And we also have Washington over here, which in 2012, then there were some southern counties over here that flipped to Romney that then have stayed red since. Next, we go to 2004, and that was a relatively strong year for the Republicans. Same thing in 2000. So now we go to the Clinton era, where we have quite a few, especially some in the South. But to start things off, we have Arizona in 1996, as well as Clinton's home state of Arkansas. Both of those, Clinton won a majority in. Illinois as well, in some of those rural areas. Louisiana, as Clinton was the last Democrat to win in the rurals. Minnesota is another one in this column, as well as Missouri, South Carolina, Tennessee, and West Virginia. All of those were states that Bill Clinton was actually able to win a majority of counties in, all of them except for Kentucky in the chef here, as well as now solid red state West Virginia, which he won in 1996 as well. In 1992, the first time around, he was able to pull off a win in the majority counties in Georgia, in Kentucky, in Oklahoma, believe it or not, even though he lost the state. He lost the state in 1992 by 8.6, but he managed to win a majority of counties. That's because of how many people live in Oklahoma County here. 50,000 or another 46,000, but here was just a few thousand, and it wasn't enough to add up to some of these other population centers across the rest of the state. So he was there. Bush was actually the one who benefited from the rural bonus, believe it or not, in the state of Oklahoma. back into the 80s. Now, this is going to be interesting because obviously 1988, nothing good for the Democrats. 1984, nothing even close. But 1980, believe it or not, was the last time that Alabama all majority went, because there was actually still a win across some of these states for Carter. Reagan narrowly won the state, and that's because he did relatively well in Hinds County, which is the capital, and also down here in the southern region where a lot of people live. Jackson is in that area, but Carter managed to win enough of the rurals in that area. So he actually was able to pull off a win there. So that's something relatively interesting to point out. And also in this column, you do have Alabama, but yes, also Mississippi. And you also have the same thing for North Carolina as well. All of those were states that Reagan won by less than 2.5 points. Going back to the 1970s, now we can see 1976, there's quite a few that Carter was able to pull off. That includes the huge states of Florida and Texas. That right there being 70 electoral votes in and of itself, and then Virginia being the last one. I guess you could count that one as 2024. Then you go back to 1972, that was Nixon's landslide, so that's not much of a surprise, there's nothing there. The 1960s, 1968, nothing really good there, that was Nixon's first election, but 1964 was huge for the Democrats. You have Colorado in this column. Idaho, even though, believe it or not, in 1964, Johnson only won by 1.8%. Indiana as well in this column. Kansas. That's going to be Maryland, which is actually surprising considering how blue of a state it is. Montana. You also have Nevada, North Dakota, Ohio, Oregon, Pennsylvania, basically every single other state that's not here yet. South Dakota, Utah, and then Wyoming. And there's one state left. Yes, Barry Goldwater won the majority of counties in the state of Nebraska, but not by much. If we look here, Johnson won the state, but Goldwater won 55 counties to Johnson's 38. But of course, most of the population lives over here, especially in Douglas and Lancaster counties, and that is still true today. That's where the 2nd congressional district is, and that's how Kamala Harris won it. But more counties went to Goldwater. So when was the last time that the Democrats won a majority of counties in Nebraska? The answer is 1936. This is going to be the re-election campaign of Roosevelt, and he was able to win a majority of counties against Alf Landon. So, but even in 1940, most of the counties went to Wilkie, and Wilkie actually beat Franklin Roosevelt in the state by almost 15. So that's a large shift to the right of 30 points. But that is the last time that it happened in Nebraska. Was all the way back in 1936, going on almost a century. And it doesn't look like that'll be changing anytime soon. But this was just a really interesting one that I thought would be a fun thing to see here. You can see these smaller states that don't have that many counties tend to be the ones that have Democrats winning relatively recently, most of them in 1964 still, so over 50 years. That's going to be 110 right there, 83 for, interestingly enough, being for Carter against Reagan, Carter in 76, and then 80 was these three. So the Carter era, then you have the Clinton era for some other southern states, and then you get into the more modern era, that's going to be Obama. So there's these three large things there, and then you have Biden narrowly picking these off that Harris wasn't able to maintain. So that's the main takeaway here. Your any thoughts, ideas, interesting things, other videos you might want to see in the future? Thank you all so much for watching. Have a fantastic rest of your day.